Our Dairy Today report begins with a look at some of the damage associated with Hurricane Irene. Of course, damage reports are still coming in. But we know two dairy operations near Albany, New York were overwhelmed by floodwater. Both were owned by Cabot Cheese. Dairy Today says a herd of 120 cows at one of the operations was swept away by floodwater. In Vermont, the problem is washed out bridges, making it difficult for milk pickup. There are also widespread power outages, but Dairy Today says many of the operations have a generator backup. A natural disaster of another sort is wreaking havoc coast to coast. Historic drought in the southern plains is pushing hay prices to near record or record levels. Weather problems, competition from other high-priced crops, and low stocks are all rolling their way into this hay crisis. Drought in Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Kansas has supplies tight. USDA says dairy quality hay in southwestern Kansas sold for about $280 a ton. Last year it was closer to $130. The same is true in California, where a cool, wet spring hurt yields. In Texas, the state's ag commissioner is reaching out to other states looking for hay. The state updated its hay hotline to help connect ranchers with hay producers across the nation. Letters were sent to ag secretaries and commissioners in other states looking for hay donations for Texas ranchers. He's also seeking grazing land. You can check out the online version at texasagriculture.gov/hay hotline. There's also a phone number, which is 877-429-1998. We'll repeat these numbers at the end of the show. And many Texas ranchers have been culling their herds, but they're still holding on to some of their livestock. And what are they doing to stretch their feed? We'll take a look tomorrow on Ag Day. Meanwhile, in North Dakota, it's the opposite problem. Too much flooding made it impossible to get a hay crop. Some of the best hay land in the state is underwater. Nick Dreyer from affiliate KMOT-TV talks to a rancher who didn't get much of his crop seeded and will have a harder time keeping his cattle fed this winter.
If you have land on high ground, it looks good. Problem is, there's just not enough high land this year. Brian Erdman and his son farm 3,000 acres and raise 200 head of cattle.
99 was bad, but I don't think I've seen it quite this bad, I don't think.
The Erdman farm is pretty quiet today, even on this beautiful summer day. His hay equipment sits in the yard instead of cutting grass, clover, and alfalfa to feed his cattle when winter sets in.
We're going to have to sort in the fall and probably get rid of everything we can and go down smaller and try and get by.
Erdman says he and his son got about 20% of their cropland in, but they're also ranchers, and there's not a lot of hayland to go around this year. Hayland is usually in low-lying areas, so you can imagine in a wet year like this what that hayland looks like. His corn crop looks good, but look again in the low ground. Since the rain doesn't want to stop, there's major drown-out. Erdman even seeded early canola, but when a huge rain fell on it, the seed didn't want to grow. He decided to rip it up and replant millet for hay.
I don't know, we probably had 10 inches in the last month or so here.
Farmer ranchers like Erdman are in a tough spot. If they can't seed crop on their wet land, they would like to seed hay, but federal crop insurance rules don't allow a producer to do that since they're already claiming insurance on it.
It is a little frustrating. We met with the Commissioner of Ag from North Dakota, and it's some ruling. Some other state, they kind of abused the system on prevent plant, and that's why it got a ruling into the policy, and they're trying to change it, but for this year I don't think it's going to happen. We're basically just trying to do it for our own, not make a crop and make money off it. We just want to save our cattle herd is what we're trying to do.
Erdman doesn't know if he'll have enough hay when winter rolls around, and selling off some of his herd has to be an option. Near Upham, North Dakota, I'm Nick Dreyer reporting for Ag Day.
And finally, how good are your dairy cattle? The competition to find out says it's last call. Dairy cattle exhibitors planning to compete at World Dairy Expo need to get those entry forms in. Entries need to be in by September 1st to avoid late fees. You can still enter for the October show up until animal check-in, but it'll cost you more. You can get more details at worlddairyexpo.com. For the very latest news affecting the dairy industry, check out dairytoday.com.